In this video, I'm going to talk a bit more about my mental health journey, and today I'm going to go through my story to do with new job anxiety, perfectionism, and the voice of the inner critic that has come about sort of through my past experiences with my mental health. So I'll talk about how I got my job that I'm in currently. So I was job searching from about January 2021 up until about March. Was when I finally got offered an interview, and it was for another hospitality role because I felt that's something that I enjoyed doing, and I could sort of carry on working in that just within different settings. So I had an interview for it, and because it was under lockdown conditions, it was carried on over the telephone. So I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't know who I'd be speaking to. I was just told the name of the lady who'd be doing the interview, and what time to kind of expect the call. So came to the day, and I had quite a lot of things going on during that day. So it was just kind of something in my calendar. I was like, okay, I've got this interview, just kind of get it over with. And I've had a history of quite sort of anxiety-ridden interview experiences. In the past, when I've gone for interviews, I've just felt so nervous that it kind of affects my communication of how I come across. So I would sort of minutes leading up before I'm called to go into the interview, I would get like a racing heartbeat, butterflies in my stomach, feeling sick, just really wanting to not have to go through that process, but also knowing that I have to do it to be able to get a job, and that was that I just need to try anyway, no matter how I was feeling. And sometimes I was able to kind of hide my nerves and get through that interview, and answer all the questions like to the best that I could. And sometimes whilst in the interview you can't really tell what they're thinking, like whether they're thinking straight away, no, we're not going to offer it, or whether that you've done really well. They don't really give it away. Sometimes you get contacted, or I will get contacted pretty much straight afterwards, or a couple hours later, and that might mean that it's a good thing because they kind of know already they want to hire me, or they might just know straight away, well, we're not going to take it forward, we're just going to let you know, without kind of dragging it on. And sometimes they might leave it a couple of days, and then I'm like, I haven't got it. And then it actually comes through with some good news. So with this one that I had back in March, I think for one, it was because I knew I needed to get it over with. I kind of spoke before I was really thinking about what I was saying, and kind of had planned some answers, just bringing up all my experience and my work experience I've had from the last couple of years. Like, how can I sell it in a way that's gonna make me look good, even if I don't really believe it. I just kind of started speaking before I could think, and there were quite a lot of questions, but I managed to get through them all, kind of sped through them to get it over with. Whilst I was on the phone, she kind of said, oh, do you want the job? And I said, yeah, I'll be happy to take the job. And we just kind of went through couple more bits of information about what it would entail, and I asked a couple of questions. And then it was pretty much left so that I would have to give a few more details about my work history, contact details, all that kind of admin stuff. And then I'd have to get a DBS check, which meant getting bits of paperwork. And I didn't really know about that process, but a DBS check takes a couple of, can take at least a week for that to go through and for you to kind of be vetted. And if it comes back all clear, then you're fine to start working in whatever setting it is. But I didn't know that. I thought I'd be able to start pretty much straight away, because I wasn't currently working. I was sort of available, and in that period of just waiting to be called in to start, my mind was already sort of in a negative headspace. Even though I'd sort of beat my anxieties about the interview and I answered the questions quite well. I told people that I'd got the job and they were sort of congratulating me, and I didn't think how much of a good thing it was that I'd actually got the first job that I'd interviewed for since January, and that doesn't usually happen. I usually have a couple of interviews and I don't get the first one, so I kind of didn't acknowledge all of that and was just already worrying. Well, you've got this new job now, how long until it goes wrong? What can you mess up in this time? And this is where the inner critic comes in. So it's a voice that will kind of be in a negative sort of intention to, instead of having the events that will kind of boost someone usually, or positive things happening, it will kind of be I guess discourage you and just think, well, how long is this going to last? And this is what was happening whilst I was waiting to start. So until I was able to start and sort of have proof that I was capable of doing it and that I wasn't going to mess up, this voice was sort of winning that battle. So I just really wanted to start. And I did say to one of my work coaches that I already feel anxious about starting this job. I've not even got there yet. And they kind of reassured me that it's normal to feel nervous and just to sort of believe in myself and know that I'm capable and all these words of encouragement. But it just wasn't getting through to me at that point. And when I did finally get my start day, just kind of worrying all up into that time, and the kind of excitement that I might have starting a new role that didn't exist anymore. It was just replaced by worry. And I was actually really surprised when, by the end of the day, it did go quite well, and the ladies that I'm working with, they were really friendly and really helpful, and it wasn't a complete disaster, which I wasn't expecting. But still, my mind wasn't settled. I just thought, well, that was the first day. I've only met half the team. Day two, it could all go the other way. And I think I went back at the end of the week. And that day went pretty okay as well. Like nothing really bad happened. But I think I still needed maybe one more day of sort of confirmation before I would stop worrying so much. I had a couple more shifts, and I was actually engaging in conversation with my colleagues, and I was surprised at myself because of knowing how anxious I was and how I find it difficult to talk to new people. I was actually getting in on the banter and making conversation, asking things about them, saying things about me. It was kind of the side of me that does that is able to put up this sort of confident persona at work, when even though in my mind I still wasn't matching up. And I would have a couple more shifts, and I would feel that I was picking it up well. And there was just one week where it just it did go downhill. And because of the medication that I was on, making me very tired, very drowsy, I would go to work quite early in the morning, have to start 7:30 in the morning and finish at 2:30. I would put my alarm on maybe at 10 to 6 just to make sure that I'd wake up in time and be properly awake to be able to walk to work. But I would still feel so drowsy, I couldn't even move. After getting sort of washed and dressed and have my breakfast, my body wouldn't let me go any further than that. And I was just getting quite worried about this. It just seemed that no matter how much I slept during the night and napping after work, I just always felt drowsy and still not alert. And then I thought about all of this in one of the morning meetings just before starting my shift, and my mind was just in overdrive, saying, "Oh, well, you're tired, and then you can't work properly, and then if you can't work properly, then you'll get fired." And it was just too much for me to deal with, and I started crying in the morning meeting, just sort of quietly to myself. I didn't want anyone to see. I just thought I'll just stay to the end of the meeting, take myself out, side for a bit, calm myself down. So I did go outside, and my heart was still racing. I was finding it hard to breathe, trying to do breathing techniques to try and slow it down, but all that happened was I just kept crying more and more, and I couldn't get a hold of myself. So I went back into in the kitchen, and I said to my colleagues, "I don't feel well, I feel sick." And they told the manager, and the manager said, "Well, if I'm not well, to go home." And I just did that. I just went home because I was so overwhelmed by my emotions. I didn't know how to pull myself together and do the rest of the shift because I was still worried about this tiredness thing, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't even know at that point that it might have been the medication. So I went home, and then for the next shift I was still feeling kind of tired, but I went back in, and one of the tasks I'd have to do is make sandwiches for the clients, and you have to make about 40 of them about 40 odd sandwiches, and they all have different preferences to cut them in different shapes. You kind of have to read what's ordered and then kind of do what you think will give enough variety. And I was given this task to do, and I was sort of chatting along with my colleagues, and I'd realised that I'd done not completely wrong, but I'd missed a couple of ingredients, and I'd done too many of one, and I don't know how to fix this, and I've messed up, and I can't even make something as simple as sandwiches, so how can I do the job role properly? How are they going to be able to rely on me to assist them? It's not working, and they're going to see I'm incapable, and I'm going to get fired. All of that was going through my head, and I just started crying, but sort of quietly. I didn't want to sort of burst into tears, but I did kind of want someone to notice, okay, something's wrong. And luckily one of my colleagues noticed, and they asked, "Oh, why are you crying?" And I said, "Oh, I can't even make something as simple as sandwiches." And they just sort of reassured me that not to worry about it, and they all do things like that, or make mistakes, and no one would have noticed, and it wasn't as big a thing as I thought it was. But I just couldn't sort of move past this mistake, and I think they told me to go and have a cup of tea, and I think I just couldn't, I just saw myself as a failure, and I just left, went home. So that was not a good week, and I just spoke to my work coach about it, and he kind of reassured me that you're not expected to be perfect. You're still new, you're still learning, and that you can take some time out and then go back. But by me sort of leaving, I was just sort of reinforcing that I wasn't up to it, but really I was capable. It was just self-sabotage. So I did kind of had a couple of days before I went in next, and I said to myself that I'm going to, if I mess something up, I'm just going to carry on, and just to remind myself that I don't have to be perfect, and that there's still room to make mistakes, and I'm not going to be fired, and I've not done anything serious that's really going to mess things up. But sort of being in that mind frame of what's happened in the past and how I was not in the best frame of mind going into the new job, and trying to sort of bringing all that baggage with me, and now just trying to be kind to myself, and reminding myself that I'm still learning, and just slowly getting rid of that anxiety. So things to kind of take from that is to not put such high expectations on yourself, because not everyone is perfect. People might appear that they are, but they're not, and if they can make mistakes, and so can you, it's not really going to have like a huge effect on who you are as a person, because you do lots of good things in your life, and also just trying to ignore that inner critic that might come and dampen down any of the good experiences and positive things. So yeah, that's what I've kind of learned from that experience.